see you all, to see you live and in person. It's been fun on Zoom, but this is a hell of a lot better. I want to thank Kathy for the effort that went into this book. It was an endless effort. I don't know where she found the time being a first responder in the hospital, but she did. And let's see that appreciation again for that.
That's one of the reasons I came back.
Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
I just want to say that this book would not exist if you all didn't contribute. So I feel like applauding you all because it was very easy to work with all of you, and it was a relationship, this book. So thank you for appreciating me, but I have to tell you how much I appreciate all of you. So that's it.
Okay, we all know we're going to start. We're going to read. Each one is going to read one poem from the book. Try to limit the introduction. We want to get everybody in today. And we will start with our first reader, Sasha Ettinger.
I think I'm just so overwhelmed by being there and seeing everybody. Take the mask off. Take off the mask.
Never hear you otherwise.
And to breathe.
I'm so overwhelmed. I mean, just to see familiar faces again in person is wonderful. And Kathy, who are you, Kathy?
It's not working.
Can you hear me now? No? Are you on?
Can somebody make that louder? It's really...
Controlling the mic. Yeah, no, it's really... Can you hear me now? That's better.
A little bit, yeah.
I know we all want to thank Kathy for her dedication, her determination, her amazing, amazing work ethic to put this book together, especially during the time of the pandemic when all of us were in so many ways at loose ends. So Kathy, thank you for being the most remarkable woman that you are. Thank you so very much. Can you hear me? All right. Earthly joy. He sits there in the quickening, the air alive with stillness, his spirit awash with peace. Doubts about the life he lived discarded. Something more powerful has taken hold. Amber and gold leaves, stippled play of color and light, tumble overhead to the swell of the willow warbler's song. As day turns to dusk, his eyes take in the wilderness landscape with its lush cropping of wood sorrel. And like the Cherokee millennia before him, he chews on it to quench his thirst. Surrounded by white birch, he feels relief knowing papery bark provides farm timber. How rich the clusters of clover that ease his hunger. How soft the bed of green pine boughs. Solitude fills the emptiness of his pockets. Stars sweep the sky with their hallelujah chorus, and like Whitman, he bequeaths himself to the earth, refuses to mourn his ephemeral life, and falls asleep in the forest cathedral of nature's world.
Well, that was a good start. We have a long list. There's at least 35 maybe readers. And poets love to talk. So try to keep the conversation less, and then we can get on with the poetry. The next reader is Lynn Sulajnit. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Lynn?
We're going to try to do this with the masks on because the sense is that germs are very close to the mic and we don't have a mic to change. So if you keep the mask on and try to speak up in the volume, thank you.
What? That's crazy.
Can you hear me?
It makes it even worse to hear it. It really does.
Egret at the
Can't
Arboretum.
stay with that. It's ridiculous.
The egret strides along the margins of reeds and loam on bamboo legs, pokes his head under river's edge, beak well gaffed, spears a silvery wriggling fish. Sunlight shimmers on rippling water, a wavy twin reflection appears. He rises swiftly into woven air, white sails against a turquoise sky, billowing in the wind. Glides smoothly, effortlessly, feet trailing behind like rudders, lands gently upon the shore. Unconcerned, trods the marsh again. Bathed in solitude and silence, I absorb nature's movement, am captured by her still breast, at one with all, surrendering.
Our next reader will be Mary McGrath Schwartz.
Hello, and thank you. I'm really honored to be part of this book. My poem is called Quince Jelly. Quince jelly is the color of sunset, though the fruit is unprepossessing. Hard, yellow, astringent. Don't even try to take a bite. But the jelly, that is something else altogether. You might flavor it with a touch of nutmeg, but that's not necessary. The flavor of the fruit stands alone. I don't know where you get a quince these days. Teddy Roosevelt had an orchard of dying trees. Back in the 50s, you could still go to Sagamore Hill on a cold, sad day in November and pick the unlikely fruit hanging on limbs, stripped bare of life or leaves. Bring it home to sweeten and boil. Fill the house with steamy bergamot perfume. Quince becomes something other than what is in the pot. Wormy quince is probably the best, as the insects know the tastiest fruit. Just cut the bad spots, leave the core and the peel. They have the essence of flavor. Anyway, you'll use the pulp and keep the juice, bubbling liquid rose. Teddy Roosevelt was a man to be reckoned with. Everything about him was expansive. His roaring black bear, rhinoceros tusks, huge banisters, dark holes for chasing brothers. Our family, not so different in size or temperament from Teddy's tribe, trooped through his big, forlorn house, while one last time my father retold stories of brave Teddy and his Rough Riders. Where was the docent when my brother hefted the elephant gun? When the great doors closed, we crowded into the Ford, cranky toddlers and subdued children shoulder to shoulder. Wet woolen coats steamed the windows. Our parents wept soundlessly in the front seat, staring at property gone to wild, gone to ruin, at the future gone to ruin. In the weed-choked field, bare trees hung with naked fruit. Quince is hard and yellow, astringent, not a fruit to rejoice in. But my father said a little quince jelly would be nice. Too sick to endure the chilling rain, he stayed with the baby, while our mother pulled small, forgotten fruit from black trees, hoping to bring the color of sunrise back to life.
And our next reader is Sharon Anderson.
Oh, there is a book here. Can everyone hear me? Yes. Headlines as compost. I choose to not watch the news in prime time. Instead, escape to comedy show reruns and some obscure offbeat channel. I choose to not read the paper. Instead, cut out coupons and the daily crossword, use the rest to wrap salad scraps or potato peelings. I do this because nothing ever changes except the crossword answers, and even those are sometimes far beyond the limits of my tolerance. The news leaves me feeling helpless, hopeless, hapless, grist to the mill of rerun politics in a society rotting away, and unlike potato peelings or salad scraps, giving nothing back to the earth. Thank you.
Our next reader is George Wallace. Incognito.
All right. Congratulations on this landmark book. I am September 29th. I have to wear the mask while I'm reading. Take a picture now. I actually wrote this poem as Phil Asaph. It's a carpenter's poem. Fitting windows snug as dusk with a reciprocating saw. Talk is cheap. What saves most men from themselves is their allegiance to the tools they carry, the constancy of a drill bit in uncertain weather, the sawdust in their hair, a staple gun, or a 5-gallon plaster bucket well kept. Even after a long night drinking beer and smoking cigars, even after tossing more money into the void than he ought to have at the track, what saves a man are the tools he keeps in good condition. The gleam of morning sunlight on a lubricated saw plate when all hope else has failed. The smooth action inside a miter box after a long night sleeping flat and dreamless beside a woman who's become a mystery to him. More than the impulse of his hands, more than the geometry of his eye, more than the sure grip on a flip knife he owns, scoring drywall. What saves a man is the care he takes for the instruments of his work. The creed of tools he knows better than his own tongue, better than the trust he places in the sacred texts of cast, configuration, figure, form, better than his own best judgment, fitting windows snug as dusk with a well-tempered, reciprocating saw, more than a crew of men with no bad apples, more than his own body's promise, more than a work site free from litter, debris, excess vibration, unexpected overhead movement, even more than the rookie carpenter in a new pair of work boots etching lunch orders on a 2x4 with the stub end of a pencil. More than life itself or his own suspect sexuality, no wasted conversation or bitterness to distract him. With loyalty to the tools in his trade, with confidence in their loyalty back, the faith to put full weight into honest effort to ascend rung by rung to astonishing heights, to cut, to join, to go shoulder to shoulder with framers and fabricators despite their strangenesses and limitations, to honor the gospel of a heavy set of French curves that can help soften the geometry of the rectilinear world, is to be a child in an empty lot, honoring the innocent movement of a butterfly. A good ladder saves the man from himself. Crosscut saws, rasps, sandwich beams, really long screws to fit hangers with, or a full threaded rod. Thank you.
Our next reader is Alice Melzer.
Normally I don't want to say anything beforehand. Two things. I read today, last week's Wall Street Journal. Art, all arts, is about the exceptional. And the other thing I wanted to also state is you are all agents for the arts. Therefore, all of you here are exceptional. So I'm honored. Water's Edge. Can you hear me? Water's Edge. Dappled blue, cool moonbeams lay lightly over the salty bay. Southwest winds swish through long, loose seaweed. Bobbing below the inky-colored water, hungry blue fish. Silver bunkers and sideways crabs round the dock's pillars round. Gliding on a gently rolling, lowly boiling bay. A young, curious, ghostly swan slows, stays, and smoothly sails away. Waiting, whirling, and preforming, denizen blue herring works. Magic between and below the moon spotlight. See the fish? And now you don't. With a final bow, he unfurls his feathered cape and is gone. Hiding amid the dark blue trees, weary from seamless summer days, cicadas rub their elbows. They provide their own tempo to an ancient song. Their dance continues all night long. Clouds gather, bring out their wet clothes, winds stir the treacle, colored sky and rain falls. Thunder applause, just because. Moisture sparkles and splatters all over the surface. One by one, tiny lights, small fires, and little beacons of human consciousness punctuates the night. Night's drama continues to unfold, surrounded by the bay's ebb and flow. Earth's tired children resist the call to bed. Thank you.
Streeters Civil Bank.
I just want to thank Kathy for transitioning us all into another stage where we can all see each other and be together. She is tremendous and everyone involved is so happy and proud and humbled. Thank you. Stranger. Through the window, a prism of light caresses my grandmother's Russian silver candlesticks, stretching tall on the walnut table. She wraps them into socks at the bottom of the suitcase when she comes by boat to South Africa, escaping a ravaging Europe. In the new land, she wanders around the town square, gazes at curved bottles gleamed from ocean tides, books in faded leather covers, ivory teething rings, gleaming blue rosemary beads, Jesus on the cross next to Eastern European engraved goblets. She buys a small silver Sabbath wine cup, dreams of old longings, memories awakened, touches, looks, sees buyers bargain for objects that soothe their past experiences, like tasting a fruit eaten in a faraway place. All this under brilliant blue skies, with aromas drifting from buckets of roses, buttercups, calla lilies and all, smells of strange guava fruit, dare her to taste their pink insides. She pauses before woven baskets, stone sculptures of proud, full-lipped African kings and queens, who too had lost everything in the capture of their lands. She weeps.
Our next reader is, I'm not sure about the first name, Mina Dreamwalker. Maya Dreamwalker. You want to go back?
The name of this piece is They Come to Return the Dead. They come to return the dead. Dry tongues lick the ear with sandpaper. They come offering bags of breath and bones of words to make soup for the hungry. In its impending nearness, here lie the gates of heaven and the gates of hell. The rage at choices made, informed by truth, swells in stomachs like starvation. They come whispering over dandelions while widows sleep with concrete. They come on safari in tour buses to make trophies of the wildlife in nihilistic neighborhoods. They come to fill the empty womb with sawdust. And the riot within becomes grief, fixed and dilated.
Next, we're going to hear from Glenn Garamello.
Thank you, Robert. In the book, it's July 30th. The title of the poem is The Mystery Play. There was more than a boy filling a mirror at the back of the Japanese restaurant. There was magic and mystery at play inside the body of this 7-year-old. He spoke to himself through the smoky glass, moving his head and arms like a mime. You could not tell one from the other. The boy became the image he reflected. They were identical, like those perfect days which make a copy from the surface of the water. The boy was lost in himself, a small god who danced and played in his own delight. His mind was turned inside out, like the song from a wooden flute. There was wonder as I remembered how free we were at that age. The world was not yet real, not hardened. It only answered to our imagination. It was a game to be dressed and rearranged. Before I could tell, the boy grew older, entered the age of reason, and returned to the table to sit with his parent. Then, with head bent, he decided to behave and quietly finish his lukewarm mountain of white rice. Thank you.
Our next reader is Nina Yavel.
I wanted to thank Kathy for her wonderful work on this book. Just incredible. Thank you. Winter Song. I search for you through stained windows, waiting for old voices to bring a song. Soon, so soon there will be green. The trees in white robes shiver, caress thin sparrows. Their nerves reach into the core. Frozen branches ache toward morning, spines straight. They dance a stark ballet. The song rises up. Soon, so soon there will be green. The rivers will flow through the heartwood. Lost love will return in fine voice.
Now we'll hear from Maggie Bloomfield.
An honor and a privilege to be here today. Thank you so much. I'm March 4th, but I can't lift the book. Lying on the beach on a starry night. An arid star trails sparks through velvet skies, swathing a lustrous path through ocean's night. Cool sand, soft cushion for my weary eyes to rest and follow its ephemeral flight. I long to fly that stratospheric course, to gaze upon myself light years below, beside torrential pewter force, my speck, devoid of clear trajectory or glow. Oh, comets, planets, meteors connect, collide in fire and fury as you fly. Throw sparks of immortality protect no more God's secret, how to never die. The ebb and flow that carries all to sea will capture shooting stars, the world, and me.
Before I introduce the next person, I just want to explain why everyone has to wear a mask up here. It's because there are over 30 of us reading and only one mic. And so it's just for everybody's safety. The next reader is Rosie Leisner.
Sometimes I don't recognize myself.
Got company.
Comes in handy, doesn't it? I'm going to try to read this from my phone. This down more. This is July 7th is the page. The third day. I can't imagine why Jesus chose the third day to resurrect his body. The third day was never the best for me. The third day after surgery was always the crying day. The stitches pull the hardest, the pain beyond drugs and always beyond help, the body's constant weeping. After giving birth is the third day. The episiotomy begins to pull and itch. The milk comes in, breasts stretch like balloons, beyond endurance, yet unable to burst. The baby too small to do them justice. Even the cow could not jump over these wounds. Fibromyalgia. After a weekend of hard work, it's always the third day it kicks in. Muscle, nerve pain all over, deadening fatigue, weakness beyond caring. Why he took his body with him on the third day is beyond comprehension. I'm pretty sure I would have chosen to resurrect without it.
And next we're going to hear from Gail Tello.
First say the book is absolutely exquisite. Really, congratulations. Dennis Gray invited us to his church to celebrate the African Americans coming out of slavery, and it had been 400 years. And actually I grew up in the Bronx where the only blacks were one janitor and a house painter. And I actually thought the whole world was Jewish. So this was our experience at the African Musical Extravaganza. We were standing, swaying among the healed and the unhealed from the door of no return, 1619, to the door of our return, 2019, at a Presbyterian church where my friend Dennis had gifted us 2 tickets, waiting for us to pick up at the door to celebrate the foretelling, the homecoming journey of 400 years toward the beckoning ancestral beacon on lost native grounds, with thousands of Africans in America. We were standing, swaying among the healed and the unhealed, the only 2 whites among hundreds, with families colorfully clad in hugs and joy, clasping their children, with elderly clasping walkers, with those alone, with some teachers, doctors, writers, Dennis had introduced as they fleshed in plans for the once-in-a-lifetime visit home. We were standing, swaying among the healed and the unhealed with the rising Black national anthem, with the Reverend's welcome address, as slowly I saw come into sight that 1619 ship with bodies chained, the excruciating fright. But my vision was blocked by the limits of my own life's horizon, where I saw again on my childhood's block coming clear the only Black faces in the all-white neighborhood, the loud and gruff Mr. Wilson in coveralls, the janitor I feared walking his ladder, and Leroy the painter who stippled gold leaf on our drab walls and smiled such ready warmth to me. I knew I'd grow up to be a house painter as he. We were standing, swaying among the healed and the unhealed with the voluminous South African ensemble with names Sibu, Mufu, Goon, Zolani, I couldn't pronounce, with the boys' drum-thumping overture, our girls' funga welcome dance, with the women of Grace's limber limbs tracing their roots, and with Dennis's chilling, spiritual, evoking tears, the soulful music inhabiting his body as his empowered notes were our navigator as they went surging up into waves, lilting and lifting us, each in our own vessels throbbing with the beat toward native freedom from all forms of slavery. We were standing, swaying among the healed and the unhealed, while a seeming Mr. Wilson and Leroy, filled with the unreachable dark of spent being, were swaying along through the many doors of no return, through hatred, through bigotry, through cruelty, through the one door of our most human homecoming. Thank you. The announcements coming up Saturday, we're going to have a reading here from the contributors to this wonderful book, Corona, all your experiences on Corona. 1 o'clock at the Whitman Birthplace. And there will be another reading of Transition contributors May 15th at the Mid-Island Y in Plainview. There's flyers out front. I hope you can all come. Thank you.
Our next reader is Camilla Venkin-Swarn.
Thank you, Kathy. This is an exquisite gift, and I'd like to thank my fellow editors and the poets and the photographers. My poem is based on, it's an ekphrastic poem based on Frida Kahlo's painting, Tree of Hope. Tree of Hope. I wore a red skirt and held my knee brace in my hands. I was only 7. My mom had taken me to a temple on a hill. The story goes that a bull was attracted to my red skirt and bounded toward me. As I could not run due to surgeries on my left leg, I stumbled and was lifted off my feet by a stranger, just in time to escape the rude horns of the angry bull. I imagine this incident made the picture of the incision and the coarse stitches in my leg firmly implanted in my mind. My body felt separate from me, swaddled in hospital sheets. As my feet dangled below my red skirt, the earth appeared cracked, covered in fault lines, in sympathy with the fissures in me. The sun and the moon hung in my path, as if saying, "You can go on just as we do, whatever the weather or the state of the land." I sat through the years, my feet on the ground. They have held firm like the red bow in my hair, holding my braids. No wind can untie it. In my land, bereft of trees, I held firm. Thank you.
Next, we're going to hear from Karen Schulte.
Well, I am actually going to read two poems, but only one poem by myself. That was written by myself. But the other poem was written by Aaron Kramer. I don't know if any of you knew him, remember him. So I'm going to read first a poem that I wrote called Black Paper Album, which is also the title of my new chapbook, which will be coming out next year. Black Paper Album. My fingers run over the crumbling edges of black photo paper, the album's soft binding held together with hand-tied string is coming apart. Inside, fasteners have lost their grip. The glue on the back of ancient snapshots fast disappearing. Old photographs no longer secure fall, page after page, a cascade of them from my father's youth. He and his brothers stand arm in arm in the courtyard of their Hebrew orphanage, anchored to each other, their own fortress against whatever lies ahead. Turn more pages, more yellowed pictures fall. The 20th century moves on, becomes undone. My mother's family, people I have forgotten or who have died, tumble out, no longer attached to time or place. My mother, with her slick bob, slim and fashionable, leans against her parents' porch railing, looking pensive. Her sister sits in a wicker chair, pregnant and peaceful. My uncles in soldier uniform, proud to be first-generation American, stare at me with pride. The youngest one play acts with his bayonet while smiling for the camera. Even pictures of family dogs I have almost forgotten pose looking serene. And for a while, we were. My father's brothers, my mother's family, cousins I no longer see. Even my brother, so young, swinging his baseball bat with joy and vigor. All these images are now between self-adhesive, acid-free pages with new captions underneath, securing themselves for a new century, bound to a different time with different sorrows, leaving remnants of the past with traces of the future. This is Aaron's poem. Aaron wrote many, many things, and one of the things about Aaron was that he wrote poems that have been set to music because they are so lyrical. and this particular poem is a sonnet, and it's called Thernody. The time of year is green, but black's my color. Cloudless a sky, but in my skull a cloud. I harvest nothing, though the hayloft's fuller, and have no tune, although the day breaks loud. Loud breaks the day, and I, aloft but lately, crouch wingless, tuneless on a bare tree's bough, as though it were a day of death, and rightly, a song of death shall be my music now. Oh, friends, I tell you this, no face is finished, no sea has drawn a body to its bed, no stone's been cut, no stone to mark what vanished, only the dream by which I lived is dead, and I that bellowed so must learn to be silent, except for this one Thernody.
All right. We have our first photograph person who's going to talk about one of the photographs that is in the book. And that would be Donna Lashen.
Space up there just so people can see. Thank you. Hi everyone, I'm an amateur photographer and I kind of specialize in flowers. That's my thing. I don't know if you can all see it. It's also on August 22nd in the book. One of the things that Kathy had asked is for me to explain to you why I took this particular image. When I look at flowers, I always look for something that's unique, that's different. Many times we see the same flower over and over again, but then they all begin to look the same. So sunflowers, when I spotted this particular one, I was in my girlfriend's garden, and it was a sunny, sunny, sunny day, which is horrible light for flowers. And I just spotted this one sunflower, and I looked at the petals, and I looked at the leaves around it, and it just looked to me like some wind had come by and just swept this flower in all directions. Well, I took the shot, and it was horrible, but I had just finished a course, and I learned how to do something with textures. So I bought this particular texture and put it behind the sunflower. And hopefully when you look at that now, you can actually see movement of wind. So this is my image called Wind Storm. That's Thank you.
Next we hear from Kate Dixon. Kate, you still here?
This is February 28th. Hands. Looking at your hands poised on the keyboard, you aren't sure if you see changes from last week or last month, though it appears things are different. Near the surface, veins vie for greater prominence. Here's a blotch you hadn't previously noticed. Defects seem to be pushing up from under. Not all these lumps can be original. Better put aside rings that no longer win arguments with knuckles. It's time to question just what it is you grasp. Can you trust your wrist to turn the doorknob, to loosen the drawer lid? Don't give up trying to tie shoelaces and all that keeps coming apart. Though you'd better come to grips with so many things slipping, like stacks of paper and dishes and the smooth, articulate facts on which you once counted.
Okay, our next reader is Kathy Schaff-Kilson.
I am also a photographer, so I have several pictures in the book. And today I wanted to do 4 generations of art. I'll start with this picture, which is my granddaughter. And I thought that this picture represented COVID. I don't know if you can see it, but she is curled up in a box, ready to be shipped out of wherever she was at this moment. That's on May 13th. The next picture is of my daughter, and it's kind of a Lady and the Tramp type picture. She and the cat were sharing a strand of pasta. So that's 2 generations. I'm generation number 3. And the poem will be dedicated to my mother, who would be generation 4. Mama, my mother is old now and forgetful. I tell her jokes and she laughs with me. The punchline is no longer important. She claims she knows me, Kathy. But sometimes she thinks Mary Beth, my sister, or Coletta, her sister. We share secrets and stories and forget before we remember to care, but we still remember, we still laugh. I sit by her chair, my head on her lap, a tired child. Her frail fingers in my hair, she tells me that I am beautiful, and I know that we are.
Okay, so what do you think? We'll take a break, go outside, there's a little bit of water, a little bit of wine, and we'll come back and finish the reading. You're able to take your mask off while you're outside, put it back on when you come back in.